It's now time for this month's broadcast of Learning Now TV.
Hello and welcome to June's edition of Learning Now TV. As we slide into the summer months and we are hopefully seeing the classic green shoots of recovery post-pandemic, we're going back to our monthly cadence with a more deep view of what's going on in learning and development today, and hopefully a more strategic view as well. So Nigel, who have we got on today?
I was going to say, welcome to the wonderful British summer as the rain pours down and the wind howls, as usual. I want to highlight three items today. The first one is Matt Donovan. Matt is the CLO and the Chief Innovation Officer of GP Strategies, based in the US. And Matt gets around one hell of a lot of companies, they're big customers. So he's got a unique insight and perspective on what's hot and what's not. And we chat about that. And then John Yates. John Yates launches the new Mind Tools brand across all of the Emerald Works brand. So he is the CEO of Emerald Works, but launching Mind Tools as the dominant brand, and why they're doing that and what that involves. It's a very interesting conversation too. And finally, Martin Cousins presents his latest research report. This time it's Mercer, Global Talent. And it's a fascinating, detailed and comprehensive report. So three really interesting segments, Kate, that I wanted to highlight.
Very different perspectives. Sounds great. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show. Welcome back, Matt Donovan. Matt is the Chief Learning and Innovation Officer at GP Strategies, and we hope that we'll see more of Matt. So not just this interview today and his first interview, but a regular, not monthly, but a regular slot talking to us about what's going on, particularly in the US, but worldwide in terms of learning and development. So Matt, just bring us up to date. What are you noticing? What do you think are the big trends out there? What is the kind of stuff that anyone working in L&D should be aware of, let's say, maybe alarmed about or even concerned with? Tell us how you see it.
Well, first of all, it's glad to be back, and I always like my conversations with you. But I think, wow, there's quite a few, I'd say, disruptions or challenges that are facing us out there in the L&D space. And after coming out of the pandemic, and we're obviously still dealing with the ongoing waves of it, but I think there's a lot of disruption that we're facing, not only in the way in which we learn or from a technology standpoint, but I'd say the social work elements of that as well. I think probably one of the bigger things that we're seeing is related to the rise of the hybrid workforce. I think after the past year, many of us having to shift to working from home, having to be able to, I'd say, balance work and life and personal, and being able to, become more comfortable with a virtual. But also, I think many of us realizing that we still do enjoy the company of others, and being able to work face to face with at some conditions is a challenge. So as we move from what may have been traditionally face-to-face work environments to more of a hybrid, where you actually...
And that hybrid is contested, isn't it, Matt? For example, I noticed 2 days ago, Apple sent out a little friendly note saying, hey, we're going to go back. So, you're welcome to work 2 days from home. And the staff got a petition together, and thousands of them signed this saying, no, not 2 days from home, 2 days in the office. So we want to reverse this. And they gave about 14 reasons why that was a good thing. And I think that kind of stunned Apple. They thought, oh yes, everyone will be rushing to come back. I think people are rushing to come back, but maybe on their terms rather than the company's terms. So there's some complexities to manage there for a kickoff, isn't there?
Absolutely. So in that example, I think that's a great example of what we're seeing, is that they still feel the need to come together, but not the 5 days, not under the terms of the way in which we've traditionally defined the work engagement. So the question is how can we still be productive and collaborate when we're not always next to each other? And I know that we've had virtual arrangements for a long time, but I think there's been a question about how productive can one really be when you're working alone at home through a virtual connection, connecting with others. How can you really drive true productivity and collaboration? And I think that's the question that's facing us, is that it's becoming such a significant impact as to how to really do this virtual or hybrid really well. I think the companies that figure this out, that are investing in the right ways, will gain a competitive advantage, honestly, that can actually enable their workforce to be able to be fulfilled, be able to take care of the things they need to, but also be really productive in their work environment.
The alternative is a war of attrition, really, isn't it? Where the workforce are saying no, the company's saying yes, and they just snipe at each other for months, potentially years to come, and that can't be good for productivity. So I think we need to resolve this, don't we? I guess each organisation has to come to a modus vivendi so that they're each comfortable with the decision the other takes. What else? So we've got hybrid working. I think that's absolutely critical in the whole technology infrastructure and how learning and development helps people use that themselves, but also help others to be as effective at it as possible. And I guess help with learning environments inside the workplace, so it's not boring cubicles, but more creative physical environments.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. So I think there is a lot of value in still coming together, being in the same place, same location. There is value to being able to do that. And even if you can't get all of your group together, still having a portion of them while also having folks at a distance being able to join and connect in, I think is also very important as well. So that is a critical component. So the question is, how can you now create what I would say that equitable experience for those that are virtual, while you may also be having an actual physical meeting as well. Yeah. So, and I think that gets back to the connective technology is one of the elements that we see. So I think the rise of what I call the employee experience platform is an interesting way to be able to do that as you start your work journey in that space, whether you're physical or physically same space, or you're actually virtually participating. How do you create the richest experience that doesn't overwhelm them, but gives them everything they need to perform?
Yeah. And also this, if you take LXPs, it's the ability to switch from me on my own thinking about something to me in a small group working on something together, to me in a bigger team trying to solve a bigger problem. And that should be a kind of seamless experience, shouldn't it, from the individual to the group? It shouldn't be clunky in any way.
Absolutely. And I think that's been the biggest challenge, is that we've even had we've been accommodating, I think, folks that maybe we do a team building event and we know somebody couldn't join. How could I get them to do it? And they try and join in through like a virtual webinar. And of course, when the breakouts go, you can't hear what's going on. You obviously can't pick up a marker and start to connect with folks, as you're drawing or writing in the room to build off that energy. I think there's some of the things that we look at that says, how can I really start to participate and connect while actually in the room? And actually, one of the things I thought was actually fascinating was the opportunity, and actually I was working with one of our partners, and we were doing a design thinking session, and we had an attendee joined via a robot. And so the idea was this person was actually, it's a thing of a Segway with an iPad attached to it. So they were actually able to connect in the physical space. They were able to move around section to section, being able to see that. They were able to communicate, and then through the device, they were able to share with others. So I think it was a step closer, but it was interesting in how we'll start to see more ways, I think, of being able to be present and participate while not being physically there.
Yeah, because the Segway, the beauty of that is that it's at head height when you're seated. So the thing comes along and it turns the iPad to you, and you're having a face-to-face conversation. Yep. Can move on, join another group, and it does work. I think it works much. A static person on a screen in the corner where they can't really participate at all. So you think that and that's a kind of hybrid, isn't it? It's half there, half not there, half physical, half technological. That's pointing the way forward.
Absolutely. And I think it doesn't just stop at, productivity and being able to participate. It also, I think, opens the doors around true answers around what I would call, inclusion. And actually it wasn't that particular event, but one that was actually happening in parallel in the same facility, where an individual who was previously unable, because technically they were quadriplegic employee, was not able to attend these. This is actually the first live event they were actually able to participate in from a distance, because it was such a challenge to be able to kind of come into the office to be able to be a part of it. They were actually able to participate, and it was a much more inclusive experience than it had been in the past. And I think that's another dimension, is not just how do we get, the general population more productive where they're at, but we're also enabling and pulling in the full range of a workforce. Whether whatever the conditions that require that inclusivity, we're able to meet that.
That is powerfully empowering, isn't it? So that someone who has never really been able to participate in that kind of environment suddenly is right in the middle of it, and an equal contributor, an equal partner to everyone else, rather than someone who has to be brought up to date all the time. This is what we did and this is what we decided, so that the person can work on their own. So it brings them into a community. So I think community is going to be important. We've all been so separated. There's a real need, however we do that, to have work-based communities that are in rich experiences, not just sitting next to each other all doing email. We want something a little bit more rewarding than that for our work life, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it still holds true in the sense that the humans, we are pack animals. We do enjoy being around others. We choose to live in living conditions around others. So, the workplace is someplace that we spend a majority of our day for many of us, and to be able to connect with those that we spend 8 or 9 hours a day with, it's important to have a way to connect more than just, I think, what we've been experiencing. It's been a challenge. For me, what's been interesting is that I, would look forward to, even, for example, the conference cycle. So in our industry, we have several conferences throughout the year. What I really noticed is that I was lacking was the infusion of diversity of ideas, opinions. I drew so much, while the programs, the concurrent sessions were great in there, but what I really drew a lot of energy from was the conversations, the coffees, and the after dinner beverage that I may have with somebody, picking their brain about what they were looking at, and hearing new ideas, new insights. And that is just one thing I've really struggled or missed seeing, which is actually, I was surprising that I would just naturally absorb more than I think I was even aware of, that it would influence, ignite something in my brain, and then automatically I would start to pick up and bring that idea in, or bring those ideas back to the company to share internally. I really did miss that, and I think we do need to find a way to continue to bring that together, because I think the industry conferences have still struggled mightily to get that, what I would say, outside the session interaction. We haven't found a good substitute for that, and I'm really saying I'm missing in connection. I'll go in and hear a great speaker. I may have a little bit of a chat offline, but it's going to probably take more learning on my part, as well as the way in which we're designing the systems.
Couldn't agree with you more. I totally agree with that. I miss all those ad hoc serendipity conversations. If it all has to be structured and planned, and that just doesn't happen anymore. Okay, I'm a learning leader. I'm listening to you. What advice would you give me? Have you got any tips? What should I be focusing on? What should I be thinking about in the next couple of months? And then we'll come back again and we'll keep the conversation going. But in that interim, what would you advise?
I think the time for action, I don't know that there's a single best answer out there. So in the absence of, knowing what good looks like, adopt an approach and a strategy of getting to get good over time collaboratively, which, gets back into an agile or design thinking approach, focus back on what the challenge is, initiatives, whether it's driven out of an innovation or some other business need, but being able to parcel and do something that structures around that minimal viable product to get it in. We're gonna probably try and learn a lot in our own cultures and own experiences. So having that infrastructure that allows you to innovate and try, gain data, move forward, that is absolutely going to be critical for moving forward. So if you don't have that infrastructure in place, start to put that in some degree and start moving forward.
Start with the challenges. Don't start with
Yep.
the solutions. Start with the
Correct.
challenges and work back from the challenges. Matt Donovan, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining me today. All the best, and we'll connect again and we'll continue the journey that we're on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll do that later. Hey, so you can see this is just like using a whiteboard in a classroom. And then you do my 3-year-old's favourite, you just have a nice little wiggle. 1, 2, 3, rate it now.
A really quick question, you might want to answer this later.
You see, I love this.
Next up, it's time for our regular news report from none other than Rob Clark at Learning News, taking a look at what's going on across the industry of learning and development.
The mix of working from home and in the workplace is exposing management and leadership skills, and over half of businesses in the UK are facing severe pressure due to widening skills gaps, according to a new report from Hemsley Fraser and 5app. The market for learning analytics software and services is prioritizing internal development and learning over recruitment in the battle to shorten skills gaps. And it found that soft skills, particularly management and leadership skills, have been exposed during the crisis over the last year, and that this has now become a priority for many.
As organisations have been looking within their own talent pools and not recruiting, where they have almost accidentally recruited people into roles, they might not be therefore fully skilled up to be able to manage people or to live in the best way possible. And so there's a gap there. But we're going into this new hybrid model. Well, most organisations are certainly contemplating this hybrid and great management. And I think that's going to be a real kind of test of how we think about how you motivate, how you encourage, how you engage, all of those core skills around management and leadership are going to come to the forefront.
A new report has the global market for education and learning analytics growing at an average of almost 30% over the next 6 years, to reach 34 billion by 2027. The report from Research and Markets was published earlier in June. Its forecasts are in line with the sentiments expressed by learning leaders in recent years, that measuring the impact of L&D programmes is a high priority. In the sentiment survey carried out each year by Donald Taylor, learning analytics has been in the top 3 priorities for L&D leaders for each of the last 3 years. Research from Leo Learning and Watershed carried out since 2016 shows that learning leaders are placing a higher priority on measuring learning programmes, rising from 35% 5 years ago to over 60% in 2021. The LPI has also expressed a critical need for learning and development practitioners to improve their ability to make data-driven decisions and become more aligned with the performance of their organisations. This latest report covers both the education and corporate learning sectors and reports that academic institutions will see the highest market growth. There have been many factors affecting learning and development over the last 12 months, with COVID-19 having had an instant impact on how organisations had to deliver learning. But what are the long-term effects, and how have learners' expectations in what they want from their experience changed? A new survey from Virtual College put these questions to 2,000 learners.
One of the real kind of key bits for me and what we pulled out of the report is that learning is definitely no longer seen as a kind of tick box exercise for a learner and within an organisation. I think there's a real desire and a real hunger for people to learn, and that came out of the survey. I think people genuinely want to develop in their careers, they want to develop in their roles, and learning plays a really important part in that. So I think it's really clear from the survey that's really important to the learners. Learners are very keen on more autonomy and control in their learning. They want more flexibility about how, when, where they learn. and also a very much more a kind of personalised role.
You've discovered that one of the most important things for learners is being able to complete workplace learning at a time and place that they choose. This surely precludes any sort of large-scale return to the classroom. Yet we also know that in-person interaction, being with others and colleagues, is important too. So how are we going to square this circle?
The key bit really is getting the balance right. It's very much around how do we long-term adopt a hybrid approach, because whilst we do have the kind of key point there around learning anytime, anywhere is more challenging from the classroom perspective. Actually, there were some really interesting findings in the report that when we asked people whether they prefer digital or face-to-face training versus a mixed approach, actually the majority of people, 54%, said that they actually wanted the mixed approach. How do we create an integrated approach? And I think that's the most important thing. And if we can build that into our strategies, adopting the great parts of digital, with bringing certain parts of face-to-face into digital as well, and then still allowing for some of that face-to-face contact, I think that's really important.
With learning digitally at the forefront of all reskilling programmes, there's great pressure to build the right kind of digital learning ecosystem and foster the right kind of organisational culture to encourage and promote learning. CrossKnowledge has developed an assessment and diagnostic tool that gives learning and development teams an insight into their organisation's own digital learning maturity. It believes that understanding digital learning maturity is the starting point for facing the challenges of reskilling workforces. The assessment covers more than just HR and L&D objectives. It questions ongoing whole-of-business strategy, organisational culture, leadership, governance, communications and more.
It's very important to take the time to understand where you are in your maturity journey so that you can better prepare and accelerate in your transformation to achieve more impact with your corporate learning strategy, to write your story inside the organization, across the organization as an L&D function, and last but not least, leverage your partnerships as well internally, again with business stakeholders, but also with your providers.
What does this diagnostic assessment cover? What are you looking to find out?
We have 3 cycles of maturity. We call that access to learning, which is the first cycle. And then the second cycle is integrated learning experience. And then we move to the effective skills building at scale. And that framework is then articulated around 6 dimensions. Immediately, you get a report, the overview of where you are. But not only that, we have a number of toolkits. So 1 toolkit per dimension. And those toolkits are very hands-on, very following a very pragmatic approach.
DPG's online courses are designed to fit around your life, so you can study anytime, anywhere. Get in touch now for more info.
We are back with another exciting research report to discuss. Welcome, Martin, and let's get going. Today, we're going to focus on a report by Mercer, their Global Talent Trends 2021, and the title is Win with Empathy. 64 pages, a really comprehensive report, and we cannot possibly take you through it, so we'd urge you to read it. But Martin, what's interesting? What struck you about this report that made you want to put it on the agenda?
Well, I thought that it's talent trends for the future, so that's it's a bit more future looking. And I thought there were some quite interesting trends in here. So, and it's been difficult to...
The race to reskill, sense with science, and energize the experience. And each one of those 4 trends has got kind of 3 sub-trends built into it. So we're going to drop in and out. We're going to pick 1 or 2 of these, aren't we, Martin? We can't possibly go through all 12, 4 trends and 3 sub-trends. So where do you want to start?
Well, what I would say is there are some interesting numbers here on just this whole idea of what people want from work, and I think that does matter. So I think, you know, that in this it says that 1 in 3 employees would like to work for an organisation that shows responsibility towards all stakeholders. So responsibility at an organisational level is quite important for people. And 85% of business leaders say an organisation's purpose should extend beyond shareholder primacy. So we're talking about sustainability, really, and responsible ways of doing business, you know, beyond shareholder value creation, if you like. But there are some other numbers in here. 50% want to work for an organisation that offers responsible rewards. 49% want employees to protect their health and financial well-being. And they would like financial education, which I think is quite interesting. And could that be an area of growth for organisations coming out of the pandemic, and the fact that there are lots of anxieties around work and finances, obviously. And I think quite a chunk of employees, 37%, are motivated by strong corporate values. So there's a whole piece in here about a sort of sustainable future, but actually from an employee perspective, people seem to, you know, quite big chunks of employee numbers to care about this. So I think that's important. It's actually, what do employees care about when it comes to work and the work that is offered to them? And then I wanted to dip into what I thought was quite an interesting chart. It's about, this is the question, so I'm just going to refer to the report here. To what extent do you trust your organisation to give you a career at any stage of life? And it said that pre-pandemic, thriving employees are, and I thought there were some interesting numbers here, which I think we should hold on to. They're 8 times more likely to work for a company they trust to provide them with a career, even if their job significantly changes or goes away. So just, you know, we're talking about a lot of change, and, you know, employees that are thriving are kind of able to cope with that change a lot more. So that focus on a thriving workforce is really important now, more than ever, I think.
It's like you used to get employed to do a job. You now get employed to work for the company. And the more organisations that can encourage you to believe that it's the company that's important, not your job. Your job can change, your skills can upgrade, you can move. And that seems to me to be a massively significant trend.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that, you know, but if you plug that thinking into the fact that you've got people that really enjoy their work, you know, they have good relationships with their managers, all the other things that help them thrive at work, those are the factors that will help them do exactly what you've just said.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Think, you know, making that link is really important. And I'm presuming that link is going to be made increasingly in organisations that, you know, get ahead and are doing well through all the change that's being thrown at them.
Yeah, and this transparency, twice as likely to work for an organisation that is transparent about which jobs will change. That's fascinating. So that the idea that these things emerge from the organisation, from the depths of the bureaucracy, is out of the window, and much more open planning, open admission that jobs will shift, and help and support to encourage people to occupy new jobs, new places within the organisation. Because they're employing you, Mr. Cousins, as a valuable employee, not you as a data analyst or whatever you might be. That's a really big trend. And the fact that they've picked this up and emphasised it so forcibly is a good indicator, I think. One other trend that you want to highlight from the report, Martin?
Right, I'm just skipping through. Well, actually, it's more than a trend. It's more it's about skills and transformation. What stops people doing things differently? And I think we have to temper, you know, not the ideals of employees, but, you know, where we're trying to get to with the current challenges. And I think that the number one challenge is too many priorities distracting people.
Yeah.
And we see that in other research that, you know, people just don't have time to do the things they need to do, especially around developing new skills. And that really has to be tackled. That's not new, but it doesn't seem to be going away. So
yeah. And the logical consequence of that is employee exhaustion, just initiative fatigue, so many things to focus on. And so if you've got too many priorities, you get exhausted and therefore you don't perform. So it's kind of creating some focus. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's the second challenge there is employee exhaustion for all the reasons you've just said. You know, we have to be really mindful of this. It's not, and then there's a lack of workforce capability and future skills. That's the challenge. We have to overcome these, the fact that everyone's too busy in order to tackle the challenge of skills.
Yes.
How do we do that? You know, it's a very real question, and
it is. One of their suggestions is that learning goals are a deliverable. They're not got the time, or when you've got nothing better to do. They are a core deliverable of your work in order to be able to help you adapt and therefore begin to shift your perspective. So that is all about focus. To take out all the crap in order to, but forgive my language, in order to be able to allow people to focus on what's important. That seems to be a big trend, doesn't it? Get people focused on what's important. They'll be happier. The organisation will be more successful. Everything will be more productive and better, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, so then it comes back to, you know, we talk about, there's just a piece on lifelong learning. It's basically, you know, it's a cultural thing as well, isn't it? So you know, how can you start having the conversations around your development with that transparency, you know, honesty and transparency around the fact that things are going to change? How do you do that? And how do you do that yourself as a manager, not knowing what, you know, is happening for you potentially?
Yes.
I think this is, you know, people want it. And you know, there's a line here: my company understands my unique skills and interests. Well, a good question right now would be, to what extent do you understand the unique skills that your employees have? And I think that's and
whether you think that's important. There's a very interesting graph where they look at the traditional limited lateral moves, certification-based skills, task-focused jobs, all about grade and moving upgrades. That is seen as yesterday. Tomorrow is about flat structures, assignment-based work, skills clusters, and talent marketplace platform. You move all over the organization because you're using your appropriate skills at an appropriate moment, and then you move on. So it's an increasing focus on personalization rather than narrow focus on career and job cluster around career. So this stuff is very, very important, isn't it? And as always, we say COVID hasn't created this, but it's really given it a kick up the backside. So 45% of organisations plan to restructure in 2021 to, I hope, move down that equation, move from being traditional to future focused. So Martin, brilliant report. Well done for picking it. Long, complicated, loads and loads of data. And all we've done is really skim the surface. So above all, we urge you to download it and read it. And as usual, it's completely free to download. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Robin is back. Mr. Authentic is actually talking about authenticity this week and the importance and significance of authenticity, what it is, but also what it isn't.
What do you think of when you see the word authentic or authenticity? Well, it means genuine and truthful, of course, and is universally a good thing. And one of the problems when we've got words which describe something which is considered universally positive is that they tend to get stretched to mean other things. They tend to get co-opted as marketing buzzwords rather than actually saying what they mean. And therefore their meaning gets stretched to encompass all sorts of things which may go beyond what we originally thought. As people working in the learning world, of course, we're encouraged to be genuine and truthful. Not to tell our clients and the people involved in our learning interventions lies seems to me to be a good thing. And so we are considered to be doing a good job when we are being authentic. But I also see the word authentic being used to describe contributions made by people in seminars and webinars and conferences, etc. When in reality what that is that they're telling their personal journey. And whilst I hope what they tell us is true, it's not necessarily enough that it is authentic. Sometimes we need some insight, not about what happened and maybe why and the background to where they were, but how. What skills did they use? What behaviours did they use? What obstacles did they encounter? And how did they overcome them? Being truthful and honest without insight just isn't enough. That doesn't describe something which is authentic and useful. One of the other things is that I'm a man of a certain age, so if you're going to tell me your personal journey, I want to know the route you took, the traffic conditions and what the parking was like when you got there. Otherwise I'm not going to be interested for very long. So give me some detail about what actually happened. I've also seen the word authentic being used to describe people, individuals. They are very authentic. Now, on a few occasions I've seen that being used to describe somebody who shoots from the hip, tells you what they think, regardless of the offence that they may cause. So in other words, somebody who is, quite frankly, rude. Well, I'm not sure that that's a good use of the word authentic, despite the fact that those individuals may consider themselves to be genuine. I've also seen the idea of authenticity being used to describe an identity. This is the authentic me. I am bringing my authentic self to the organisation. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, what that describes is somebody who says, actually, I'm me, you all have to change to fit around me, not me to integrate with you. And while in some circumstances I admire the chutzpah and I recognise where that comes from, we need to be careful that it doesn't move over into this idea of I will not change, because in learning and development that's what we're about. We're about helping people to change. And so where it shifts over that very difficult to define line between being genuine and truthful and honest about who you are and where you are, and actually expecting the world to take you on your terms, and moving into being stubborn, unchanging and unprepared to bend or shift or move, then I think we have some concerns, and expressing those concerns is always authentic.
This is a great pleasure. This is the first time that I've had the opportunity to interview the new, or probably not really so new, CEO of Emerald Works, John Yates. John, welcome to Learning Now Television.
Thank you, Nigel. It's a great pleasure to be here, and a great pleasure to meet you properly.
Thank you. And what I want to start with is, I've been crawling all over the web and looking at Twitter, and I've noticed that suddenly Mind Tools for Business springs up everywhere. And when you put in Emerald Works in your browser, up pops Mind Tools for Business. So something's going on, and it would be great if you could explain to me what it is and why.
You'll remember probably we created Emerald Works back in January 2020, combining three great companies, Mind Tools, Good Practice and Towards Maturity. And we did that for a number of really important reasons, some of them internal, some of them external. The key different strengths those businesses brought remain important to us. That three-layer, 360-degree view that we have from Mind Tools providing us with customer insight, Mind Tools and Good Practice providing organizational insight and Towards Maturity in terms of that learning profession, the industry of L&D. We've got a really strong three-layer view in bringing those businesses together under one brand, and we needed to connect strongly to the Emerald Group and its values. But we are clearer now than we were perhaps a year ago that Mind Tools is the brand that resonates most strongly with our customers in terms of when they think about what we do, leadership management and personal effectiveness tools and resources. So from a product and service delivery point of view, what we hope our customers and organizations will think about from now on is Mind Tools for Business.
And who's going to benefit from this, John? Is this just a mainly UK marketplace you're aiming at, or are you stretching further afield?
Yeah, we've always been pretty global in orientation, actually, Nigel, but particularly Mind Tools has a very strong reputation in the US. Mind Tools for Business, therefore, with our launch, we're very committed to our number one market in the US. It's the largest market in the world. We have, up until now, supported our US clients from the UK, but we've invested into a US-based team. They're in Denver, Colorado. We've got a team of 4 and growing fast, so that we can provide support both in the UK and the US to those US clients.
It seemed to me, from having read a little bit, that the fundamental reason for it is not so that you've got a nice shiny new brand, but that the services to the customer are much clearer. So that it's almost like layers. You can go down layer. So it's from research to tools that you can use to information to state of the industry reports. All of it comes together in a seamless whole. And you want your customers to access everything, not just one bit.
That's right, absolutely. It's the package that's important, and it's seeing Mind Tools for Business in that holistic sense. So we talk about Mind Tools for Business by Emerald Works. That's a decent way to summarize what we're offering with the 3 services. And I can talk to you about some of what we've been focusing on in particular in terms of customer benefits, and just talk you through how we articulate those. They all, though, sit underneath the umbrella of empowering people to thrive at work. And it's been true. Mind Tools has been, we're celebrating Mind Tools' 25th anniversary this year. It's a major event for us to celebrate. We will be, of course, on social media about that as well. But Mind Tools has always been about celebrating that ability to help people to thrive at work. So empowering people to thrive at work is our overarching purpose, what we're trying to achieve. And we're trying to achieve that through the number of products and services that we have. But fundamentally, we focus on accessible on-demand tools and resources, and we leverage those through the Mind Tools for Business brand.
So it's both things that are small, things that you can use in 2 minutes or 3 minutes, something you read to give you information, but it's also substantial research, because you've got a really good research team, and you're actually doing longitudinal research, which will give people an insight into the way the industry is moving, the learning and development industry and other aspects of work. So I think, am I right in saying you're trying to combine that instant day-to-day relationship and then a longitudinal, more thoughtful, more reflective relationship?
Yeah, it's a very fair summary, I think, of where we're moving, Nigel. We've got an ongoing and we'll have a persistent sort of commitment to that research work that is led by Ghent, and often you see Nadia and Ghent talking through at our Learning Innovation Group sessions and webinars, the commitment we've got to research and being research-led. We are publishing imminently our latest report, and as exciting as that is, we are launching a new version of our platform. So after 15 years of running the Learning Health Check, we're launching what will be called breaking news, the Learning Performance Benchmark. with a new platform so that people can save their progress completing the survey.
Yes, that's been a little bugbear for a number of years. That if you didn't get through it all in one go, boom, it disappeared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing it will do is provide, as you know, because you've done some testing, and thank you for that. It'll provide instant benchmark feedback, if you like, some dashboards, and you'll start to see immediately where you as an organisation sit within the benchmark, which is really powerful. Of course, our own insights layered over that, and actual insights would follow when we write the report up. But you do get some instant feedback, which I think is another important progress. But then our opportunity is to, as you've said, leverage, if you like, that data and that set of insights against the broader environment of making a difference through learning into performance, and connecting them into the tools that we have as well as our fellows across the industry, of course, doing the same. And we do think that we've got a unique opportunity to do that. It's something we're still working on, but it's on the basis of understanding the customer data through mindtools.com, understanding what our organizational customers through Mindtools for Business are doing through using Mindtools resources in the organizational context. So we talk a lot about learning in the flow of work. I think it's fair to say Mindtools has always focused on solving problems in learning, in work, as and when
learning in work. Yes,
learning in work. Thank you, Nigel. So that's always been our mantra. But to your earlier question, I think it's fair to say, my view anyway, is the industry is starting to meet a little in the middle. So we've had lots of conversations about, are you self-directed? Do you focus on self-directed learning, or are you offering formal courses? I think we're going to end up meeting in the middle because of great technology, which we're levering as a business, as are many others, to help with guided learning, so that people are understanding at point of need what will help them. But instead of, as you say, it being just a series of potentially disconnected chunks, this is a part of a personalized experience. And so what I talk to customers a lot about, and what we're committed to, we're calling making it personal, but it's making sure that what we're doing is connecting strongly to an individual's personal learning plan. And you must have a huge number of resources now. So you're not saying whatever the problem is, this is the solution, because we've only got these three things. You must have thousands of resources now that can be finely tuned to fit individual need rather than clumped together to fit general need now. Yeah, we have a very large resource set, but I would say we take responsibility for that very seriously. So the team that manage our content, and we are focused primarily as what we deliver to customers is both fantastic content that is well researched, credible and objective. We're not trying to push a particular solution at any point. We do leverage that through technology, but we are fundamentally a business that's looking at great leadership management and personal effectiveness content. That team takes that job very seriously, to the degree we don't let the toolkit become bloated. So you've got that perfect loop, really. You've got the benchmark that in some ways is testing whether what you're doing in the marketplace is actually working. So you've got need identified that you can then meet through content, and then check that things are helped and moving forward. So you therefore always got the micro and the macro in mind at the same time. And not a lot of organizations can make that boast. They're either in one camp or the other. No, I agree. I don't think many can. I think a few can, a handful can, but very, very few can. So I wouldn't be as bold as to say we're unique, but we're very, very unusual in having that. Yes, and all of those tools feed off one another and help reinforce one another as well. So I would see Mindtools for Business as an enabler and a friend. We try and sum this up as saying we want to provide trusted workplace performance insight. And I think the critical word is trusted, that we are people that are trying to do the right thing and working collaboratively across the profession. Clearly, we are also providing a commercial service, but we're very clear about our overall responsibility and accountability for doing this the right way. That's the way the three businesses that are now sitting under Emerald Works had as their heritage. And we think now bringing those together under Mindtools for Business makes it clearer what we can do and how we can help provide the level of support that we think is important in our industry.
Yes. Well, good luck with that, and good luck. And I hope you succeed. And I hope that little mantra at the end, the trusted partner, comes out loud and clear in everything you do. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you, John. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you, Nigel, for the time. Really appreciate it.
Well, that's it for our June show. Now, I've been busy starting a new job. Nigel, you conducted most of the interviews this month. What kind of leapt out at you from the discussions that you've had?
Quite interesting stuff about reconvening, reanalyzing, reintegrating. And I suppose that stands out through John Yates and the changes to Emerald Works. Because I think what they're finding is that organizations want more than one thing, that they're trying to create a brand that says we do this and we do this and we do this, and that's much more holistic. And I think organizations want that. And Matt Donovan was saying something slightly similar about the way that technology plus content plus approach plus help with marketing, all of those things are now required, not just give us this app or create this content or tell us how to get people engaged in this. It's much more bring it all together.
People want a partner, don't they? And someone that they work with over time. It's not, I've said this a lot in the past, you shouldn't view a supplier relationship as just being purely transactional. Like, you should be in it together, I think.
I completely agree. And in it for the ups and downs as well. That a really good partner stays with you and doesn't just stick with you when you're writing checks and abandons you when you're not. And that seemed to come over. It's a sort of strong sub-theme going through LNTV, that companies big and small want trusted partners, and they want authentic partners, to quote from Robin's insert. And it's part of a bigger readjustment in talent, which is what Martin was talking about in the Mercer report. So we do actually make sense, Kate, I think, in a curious way. We are weaving a narrative together, however oblique.
All carefully crafted.
Carefully crafted. Now, Kate, any carefully crafted events for us to take note of?
Well, very exciting. Obviously, we are all looking forward to potentially getting back together in the same room from the autumn. So our friends at the LPI, Learning Performance Institute, have face-to-face set up for Learning Live in London on the 8th and 9th of September. World of Learning is scheduled to be face-to-face in Birmingham at the NEC on the 5th and 6th of October. 7th to the 10th of November is Learning 2021. So our friends over the pond in Orlando. And 1st to the 3rd of December is Online Educa, again slated to be face-to-face in Berlin. So a nice international set of events there.
Yes, and we'll see how that all goes. It's quite interesting, isn't it? We'll see, fingers crossed, yes, that they managed to get the face-to-face conference market back on the agenda again. Yep. We'll report back on that. I'm sure we will, Kate. So the next LNTV is on the 29th of July, and we'll be there. I hope you will be too.
See you then.
See you then.